So I have the privilege of going to a prison consistently to work with inmates on the topic of purpose. And the guys who are in this program, these are guys that have decided, even though their life is behind bars, they want to talk about purpose. They want to talk about and live out freedom. The men in this room are so free. When I go there, I feel so selfish because I feel like there's an IV of freedom that's hooked into my veins, and I just get to take it in the whole time I'm there. Although these men have been in prison, most of them for over 10 years and have several years more, and they wear orange when they're in front of you, all you smell is freedom. It is so apparent. Two friends went with me one time, Jeff and Kyle. Jeff and Kyle walk in the room, and everyone's sitting in this big circle at these tables, and they ask Jeff and Kyle some questions. And my two friends just immediately just open up their hearts and start telling their story. There is nothing that you can say in this room that you feel like you need to hide. Actually, there's so much freedom in this room, you feel the desire to just let everything out that you've ever hidden. Why? There's so much freedom. And I sat back and just watched this conversation happen, and I was just so struck at the level of freedom in the room that I interrupted and I said, "Can I ask you guys a question?" And I asked them the most preposterous question you could ever ask to inmates. And I asked them, "Why are you guys so free?" Nobody was surprised at the question. They looked at me like it was completely normal, and they began to answer off the top of their head. One man said, "I have nothing to lose. I gain every day." Another man said, "When they took everything from me, when life took everything from me, it freed me." And then this final man, he stood up. This man, if I can give you a picture of him, you would think he's a Navy SEAL. If you put him in different clothes, you would believe he's a Navy SEAL. The properness, the dignity, the respect and honor that emanates from this man is unbelievable. He stood up and he said, "When my physical freedom was taken away, I realized that freedom wasn't a physical thing at all." A month later, I took a friend named Andy, and I had the inmates do this exercise. I said, "Stand in a line side by side." And Andy was in the back of the room just watching. And I told the inmates, "We're going to do an exercise here." I said, "I'm going to have you close your eyes. I'm going to name an example of something terrible that someone would have done at some point in their life, possibly. And if you have done it before, I want you to just step forward. And then we're all going to open our eyes and see who stepped forward. And then we're going to do it again. And I'm going to name several things that human beings may have done." Now, this was just an exercise. I didn't actually do it. But I did have them stand in that line as if we were going to do it. And I said, "Close your eyes." And before I listed an example of some horrible deed a human might do, I simply asked them, "How do you feel right now?" I wanted them to connect with what it feels like to be vulnerable. I had them open their eyes and I said, let's say I had just named something that a person might do and it was something pretty dark. And what if one person stepped forward? And then I said, "Everyone open your eyes." And we all looked at this one man who stepped forward, acknowledging this terrible thing he had done. If you looked at that man, what would you think? One of the inmates looked at me and he said, "When I look at him, I would think this. It would tell me that he's ready to be free." What an unbelievable statement. The threat of our lives is that we can live in invisible prisons and live our life trying to prove to people There is no prison here, folks. I'm fine. I used to be that guy. I was that guy that pretended and projected, yet I was living in that invisible prison. And for us to gain freedom, at some point we need to be that person that will step forward out of that line and say, this is me. I did this. This is who I really am. That's a step of freedom. Can I tell you something, friend? I never found freedom until I stopped being fake. I didn't have to earn my freedom. I didn't have to change my physical circumstances to get freedom. But I had to be the guy that would step out of the line and say, yeah, me. We left the prison that day, and as soon as we got in the parking lot, my friend Andy looked at me, choked up with tears in his eyes. He looked at me and he said, I need to go to prison because I've been that guy living in the invisible prison. My friend, freedom's worth everything, and you could have it.